And he gets standard tackle here by Eric Armstead. Bang, toe, out, 3 months. That sucks for the Bengals, but that's a huge storyline for the AFC going forward.
A season-altering injury. He's going to have the surgery. The surgery is a minimum of 3 months. It could be even longer.
So picture this. You're Joe Burrow. You just signed the richest contract in NFL history 2 years ago, which is $275 million over 5 years. You're supposed to be the savior of Cincinnati, the golden boy from Athens, Ohio, who's going to bring the Lombardi Trophy home. You've already taken this team to a Super Bowl and 2 AFC championship games. And then snap. Your toe bends in a way that toes are simply not supposed to bend. Your season might be over. Your Super Bowl window, it just got a whole lot smaller. Welcome to the tragedy that is Joe Burrow's 2025 season, where a grade 3 turf toe injury might have just derailed everything the Bengals have been building toward. I spent a good amount of time talking to my little brother, who's a podiatrist, about the severity of a turf toe injury. It sounds like the most minor injury on earth, but in a lot of cases, it could ruin a player's career. And it has ended the careers of many NFL legends. But it goes further beyond that. Was this inevitable, or was this always going to happen? Because when you look at the numbers, when you really dig into what the Bengals have done to protect their $275 million investment, man, it is ugly. I mean, look at the Bengals pass protection rankings since drafting Burrow. In 2020, they ranked 29th in pass protection. In 2021 and 2022, that was even worse. They were 30th in pass protection. In 2023, they were 27th, and last year they were 32nd. And in 2025, through 2 games, they are currently 28th in the league. The Bengals have had one of the worst offensive lines for Joe Burrow's entire career. They've never, not once, given him an offensive line that ranked in the top half of the league. Think about that for a second. You're paying a guy $55 million a year, and you're protecting him with what's essentially tissue paper and good intentions. So what happened in week 2 against Jacksonville? Well, exactly what you'd expect. Joe Burrow drops back to pass in the second quarter. The pocket collapses because, come on, of course it does. And Eric Armstead brings him down. But this wasn't just any sack. Burrow's left foot caught in the turf as he went down. His toes hyperextended in that awful way that makes you wince just thinking about it. He needed help from 2 trainers just to limp off of the field. An MRI during the game confirmed everyone's worst fears. Grade 3 turf toe with torn ligaments. Surgery required. Minimum 3 months on the shelf. Now, before we dive into the blame game, and trust me, there's plenty of blame to go around, let me explain what turf toe actually is, because it doesn't sound like it's a big deal until you realize how devastating it can be. Former NFL quarterback Dan Orlovsky knows firsthand. He suffered the same injury back in 2007 with the Lions, and here's how he described it. It was one of the most painful injuries I've ever had in my life. The 2 bones split apart and the toe wouldn't flex, and when it did, the pain was excruciating. I had a metal plate put in my cleat and shoe for the whole season. It's an awful injury, and I still feel it today. My toe will randomly pop, especially when I'm working out. That's 17 years later, and he's still dealing with it. This isn't just a stubbed toe we're talking about. This is career-altering stuff. If you join my Discord group from the WAP link in the description down below, or you follow my Instagram stories, then you made a lot of money through Monday Night Football. I myself made $675, and PrizePicks still has that Travis Kelce free square. Bear in mind, we're currently 3 for 3 on free squares this year, and I'm going to give you my picks for Thursday Night Football in a second. First, to take advantage of this free square promo, use my promo code Mikerophone when you sign up for PrizePicks to get $50 in lineups when you make a play of $5 or more. And then, bro, take these picks, trust me, because on Thursday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins, who are the 7th worst defense in stopping the run, take on the Buffalo Bills, who are the 2nd worst defense in stopping the run. So to take advantage of this, and to take advantage of the fact that PrizePicks lets you pick the same player for 2 different categories, I'm going with Devon Achane to get a touchdown and to rush for 55 yards at least. And at the same time, I have James Cook repeating his incredible week 2 performance, getting at least 67 rushing yards and a rushing or receiving touchdown as well. Now remember, I post pics onto my Instagram story, and I have a dedicated Discord server that is locked in on making sure you get the best plays each and every week. They've been profiting each and every week. I'm going to leave a link to that in the description down below, and thank you PrizePicks for today's sponsor. Now, I want you to really understand just how devastating turf toe can be. You don't need to look at Dan Orlovsky, you need to look at the Hall of Famers, the legends, the guys who were supposed to be indestructible. Let's start with Deion Sanders, primetime, the greatest cornerback to ever play the game. Arguably the greatest athlete in NFL history. The man who could do everything, play football on Sunday, baseball on Tuesday, and look fly as hell as he did it. You know what took him down? His toe. Sanders suffered turf toe during the 1998 season with the Cowboys. He described it on the Dan Patrick Show as the closest thing they called to turf toe.
It's the closest thing they called to turf toe, and it was just horrendous. I mean, I've never felt anything like it. It was so bad that it began to be hammer toe, so they had to shave it down and straighten it out.
But here's where it gets scary. 23 years later, the complications from that turf toe injury led to blood clots. Those blood clots led to circulation problems, and in 2021, Deion Sanders had to have 2 toes amputated. 2 toes! The man nearly lost his entire foot, nearly lost his leg from the knee down, and at one point, doctors were just trying to ensure that he stayed alive. Sanders would even say,
They were talking about the amputation of toes. Then they were talking about the amputation of my leg from knee down. Then they were trying to ensure I had life.
from turf toe to fighting for his life. That's the trajectory that we're talking about here. Then there's Jack Lambert, the toothless assassin, the heart of the steel curtain, one of the most feared linebackers in NFL history. A man so tough that when he smiled without his front teeth, grown men wet themselves. You know what ended his career? Turf toe. Lambert missed only 6 games in his first 10 NFL seasons. 6 games! The man was indestructible. Then in 1984, he suffered a severe toe injury that limited him to just 8 games. He tried to play through it because that's just what Jack Lambert did. He played through everything, but this was different. At his retirement press conference, Jack Lambert would say, "When we hit so hard that we jammed the toe and tore it out of its socket." It's as simple as that. The Pro Football Hall of Fame actually has Lambert's shoe from that season on display, with a cast built into it to help him handle the injury. Think about that. They had to build a cast into his shoe just so he could attempt to play. Lambert retired at 32. He was still an All-Pro the season before. He was at the top of his game, but the turf toe injury ended it all. At his retirement press conference, he said something that should frighten every Bengals fan, saying last year was probably the most difficult year of my life in regard to football. It was the first time in my life that I ever felt like I didn't deserve a paycheck. I felt kind of embarrassed about going back and picking up my paycheck from Mr. Rooney. This is Jack Lambert we're talking about, a 4-time Super Bowl champion, a 9-time Pro Bowler, and turf toe made him feel like he was stealing money. But at the same time, everyone who gets turf toe doesn't see their career end. Patrick Mahomes might be the best case scenario for what can happen with proper treatment, smart contract structuring, and a competent organization. Now, Mahomes suffered turf toe in the 2021 divisional round against Cleveland and tried to play through it. I don't know if you guys remember, this is when Patrick Mahomes' backup had to come in for a few plays to close out the game. The Chiefs would advance past the divisional round against Cleveland, and they would eventually make it all the way to the Super Bowl, where they would lose 31-9 versus Tampa Bay, one of the worst games of Mahomes' entire career. He was pressured a Super Bowl record 29 times. He scrambled laterally for a combined 497 yards before throwing the ball or being sacked, meaning that this man had to run from sideline to avoid pressure for 497 yards. It's absolutely insane. He was running for his life out there, and he couldn't plant and throw properly. Now, luckily for Mahomes, after that game, he was free to recover. He needed surgery afterward, and that kept him out for 16 weeks, but here's the difference, and Bengals fans, pay attention to this part. Mahomes would come back and win 2 more Super Bowls. How? Well, for starters, his contract averages about $45 million per year. That's $10 million less than Joe Burrow. You know what $10 million buys you? Quality offensive linemen, depth, protection, and a solid defense. The Chiefs invested in protecting their investment. They got him the surgery immediately. They gave him time to heal properly, and when he came back, they had an offensive line that could actually block for him. The result was back-to-back championships. That's the difference between a competent organization and, well, the Bengals. Dr. Robert Anderson, who's treated nearly 500 NFL players for toe and foot problems, calls turf toe the excruciating, maddening malady that afflicts up to 50 speed and skill skill players each year, and notes that it has ended the careers of the fastest and toughest players in NFL history. That's not hyperbole, that's fact. The list of careers derailed by turf toe reads like a who's who of NFL greatness. AJ Green could have easily played for way longer, but turf toe robbed him of that. Julio Jones was never the same. Devontae Adams missed crucial games. Antonio Gates, the Hall of Fame tight end, battled it for years. And now Joe Burrow joins this list. The $275 million man with the grade 3 turf toe, torn ligaments, and a minimum 3-month recovery that can easily stretch for longer. You know what's really terrifying about all this? These other guys, Deion, Lambert, even Mahomes initially, they got hurt when they had already accomplished something. Deion had won 2 Super Bowls. Jack Lambert had 4 Super Bowls. Mahomes had already won 1 of them before his injury. Joe Burrow, he's got 0 Super Bowls, 0 championships, just a bunch of almosts and what ifs, and now a mangled toe that turns those almost into nevers. But here's where the story gets really interesting and kind of infuriating if you're a Bengals fan, because this isn't like the organization hasn't tried to fix the offensive line problem. They've thrown money at it. They've spent draft capital on it. They just haven't done it well. And here's the kicker. The Bengals decided that 2025 was the year to go all in. Yeah, the same year that Joe Burrow shredded his toe. Talk about really bad timing. If you guys remember, throughout the offseason, I was bringing you guys updates as to the cap situation for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I essentially said that this is a ticking time bomb. In March 2025, just months before Burrow's injury, the Bengals went on a spending spree that would make Mike Brown's ancestors roll in their graves. They signed Jamar Chase to a 4-year, $161 million extension, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history at the time at $40.25 million per year. At the same time, they locked up T. Higgins to a 4-year, $115 million deal worth $28.75 million annually after franchise tagging him twice. Then they gave Trey Hendrickson a raise to $30 million for 2025 just to keep him from holding out. But here's the thing, Trey Hendrickson is a free agent after this year, so they're paying him top dollar for 1 season and he might walk away anyway. When you add it all up, the Bengals have over $150 million per year committed to just 4 players. Joe Burrow is getting $55 million, Chase is getting $40.25 million, Higgins is getting $28.75 million, and Hendrickson's getting $30 million. That's insane. That's more than some team's entire payroll. And here's where it gets really scary for Bengals fans. According to salary cap projections, Cincinnati currently has only about $12.8 million in cap space for 2025. Next year, they're projected to have around $52 million in cap space, but that's before they have to deal with Hendrickson potentially leaving, potentially franchise tagging someone, and filling out a roster that's already paper thin. By 2027, they'll have over $126 million in cap space, but by then, who knows if this core will even be together still? Who knows if Burrow's body will even hold up that long? The Bengals basically pushed all their chips into the middle of the table for 2025. They said this year is our year. They kept the band together. They paid everyone. And then Joe Burrow suffered turf toe in week 2. Meanwhile, what about the offensive line that's supposed to protect this $275 million investment? Well, in 2023, the Bengals made what they thought was their big splash move. They signed Orlando Brown Jr., a 4-time Pro Bowler, to a 4-year, $64 million deal. The signing bonus alone was $31 million, the highest ever for an offensive lineman at the time. Brown even turned down more money from the Jets to come to Cincinnati because he wanted to block for Burrow. That's a feel-good story, right? Except Orlando Brown missed 6 games in 2024 with injuries, and when he has played, the line still ranks at the bottom of the league. What about their draft picks? In 2024, with the 18th overall pick, the Bengals selected Amarius Mims from Georgia. 6'8", 340 pounds, this man was described as scientifically manufactured in an offensive tackle factory. They signed him to a fully guaranteed $15.37 million rookie contract. So let me get this straight. You've got your expensive left tackle in Brown. You've got your first round right tackle in Mims. And then you've got Ted Karras at center who just got extended. All of these players were at one time or are currently known as good offensive linemen. You're paying your quarterback $55 million a year. You're paying your 2 receivers a combined $69 million per year, more than any other receiver duo in the NFL. You're paying your pass rusher $30 million for 1 season, and your offensive line still can't block? What are you spending your money on at this point? Like, I could understand any NFL fan looking at this situation and saying, how on earth do do the Bengals have 3 average to above average to great offensive linemen, but have one of the worst pass protections in the entire NFL? Well, here's the thing about offensive lines. They're only as strong as their weakest link, and the Bengals have had some really weak links at guard. Plus, Mims is still basically a rookie. He's learning on the job. He was always perceived as a bit of a project. Brown can't stay healthy, and the scheme? Well, let's just say that the Bengals like to throw the ball a lot. I mean, a lot, which means more pass blocking situations, which means more opportunities for things to go wrong for Burrow. So now we get to the $275 million question. Is this Joe Burrow's fault? Hear me out before you grab the pitchforks, Bengals fans, because I'm a fan of a football team with an incompetent front office as well, so I have some empathy for you guys here. When Burrow signed that massive extension in September of 2023, making him the highest paid player in NFL history at the time, he knew what he was doing to the salary cap. That's $55 million that can't go towards offensive linemen. That's $55 million that can't be spent on protecting Joe Burrow. Patrick Mahomes makes about $45 million per year. Josh Allen makes about $43 million per year. That extra $10 to $12 million Burrow's getting, that could be the difference between having a good guard and having a turnstile. That could be another quality backup tackle for when Orlando Brown inevitably gets hurt. Hell, that could be the difference between having Jake Browning as your backup and someone that's actually competent. Nothing against Jake Browning. And now look at where we are. The Bengals went all in for 2025. They kept everyone. They're paying luxury tax prices for a roster that's supposed to compete for a Super Bowl. Instead, they're 2-0 with a quarterback in a walking boot. Their season hanging by a thread, and about $150 million committed to 4 players, while the offensive line is held together with duct tape and prayers. Some quarterbacks, like Tom Brady for instance, were famous for this, taking less money specifically so their team can build around them. Brady never made more than $30 million in a season, ever, and he's got 7 rings to show for it. Patrick Mahomes restructured his deal to help the Chiefs. Even Jalen Hurts' deal is mildly more team-friendly than Joe Burrow's. But hold up, before we start blaming Burrow for wanting to get paid what he's worth, let's flip this around, because the Bengals organization is equally at fault here. I can't blame an individual that comes from a poor upbringing for trying to secure himself generational wealth, but I can blame the organization that was famous for being cheap for years. Remember, the Bengals are the laughingstock of the NFL for penny pinching. They didn't even have an indoor practice facility until recently. Do you know how difficult it was for them to sign their first-round rookie Shamar Stewart to a regular contract that is consistent via the rookie wage scale in the NFL? You can't negotiate rookie scale contracts, and yet they nearly had their first round rookie hold out because they were trying to negotiate terms with him. Now, I don't want you guys to think I'm just pooping on the Bengals just to poop on the Bengals. This is a situation that could have easily been avoided. Joe Burrow could have taken a pay cut of around $5 to $10 million, but if he didn't do that, the Bengals could have signed Jamar Chase to a contract extension last year. He would have probably commanded the same amount of money as CeeDee Lamb got last year, which is $34 million a year, or Justin Jefferson, which was $35 million a year. They could have traded T. Higgins instead of signing him to an extension. That would have freed up $28.75 million. They could have used that money towards an offensive lineman and drafted a wide receiver in the 1st or 2nd round to take T. Higgins' place. So enough of pointing the blame finger. What happens now? Well, with Burrow out for at least 3 months, let's be real, it could be longer with turf toe. The Bengals season's basically over before it even started. But yeah, they're undefeated right now, but their schedule is brutal. They've got 7 games against 2024 playoff teams coming up. There's already rumors circulating. The Bengals have been calling around to other teams about free agent quarterbacks, and guess who might be available? Kirk Cousins. But even if they trade for Kirk Cousins, Jake Browning is going to be the starter moving forward, according to Adam Schefter. It really causes me a ton of pain when I see Super Bowl caliber cores completely squandered by front office malpractice. And I've said this a lot when I made videos on the Dallas Cowboys. I'm a firm believer that if the Cowboys paid Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons on time instead of dragging out the negotiations, they would have easily saved $100 million of cap space.
If they first extended Dak, they would have saved $49 million. If they first extended CeeDee Lamb, they would have saved $14 million. And if he had extended Micah last year, he could have saved $36 million. And that all adds up to about $99 million you could have been paying other players.
You could have easily built a Super Bowl contender around this team, or at least been competitive in the hyper-competitive NFC East. And the same could be said about the Cincinnati Bengals. If you don't franchise tag T. Higgins for 2 years and you pay him immediately, if you pay Jamar Chase on time, if you're able to prematurely pay Joe Burrow and get him to accept $50 million a year as opposed to $55 million a year, if you invested a little bit more in your offensive line, this could have been a way different story. This team was clearly capable of getting it done when they had a good defense in 2021, when they made it to the Super Bowl. But unfortunately, when you overpay the entire team and you can't support your core, this is what typically happens. My prediction is that the Bengals get a hot start with Jake Browning. They maybe go 2-1 and 3-1 in his first few starts. Everyone gets excited. You don't even need Joe Burrow. Then reality sets in. They lose 3 straight. The running game can't get going because teams don't respect Browning's deep ball. The defense gets worn down from being on the field too much. By the time Burrow's ready to come back, if he comes back this season, that is, they're sitting at something like 6-8 or 7-7, needing to win out to make the playoffs. Burrow rushes back probably earlier than he should because that's what tough guys do, and Joe Burrow's as tough as they come. But turf toe doesn't just go away, it lingers. It affects your push off, your mobility, your entire game. Maybe they sneak into the playoffs as a wild card. Maybe they don't. Either way, this feels like a lost season, a wasted year of Joe Burrow's prime, another chapter in the long, sad story of the Cincinnati Bengals failing to capitalize on their opportunities. It's crazy because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have this incredible connection, dating all the way back from their time together in LSU. But at the same time, this meme in regards to the Bengals deciding to draft Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell will always age remarkably. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this situation. Aside from that, another team that's absolutely desperate is the Dallas Cowboys. You have no idea what they're doing as a result of Russell Wilson throwing a career high in his passing yards against them. I made a separate video. I'm going to leave it in the end screen to meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.